Sometimes it takes like 5 seconds to actually go live.
Yes, it's on.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I think. Oh, I can even see it now. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our presentation this evening. We know that a lot of your early application deadlines have just passed, and many of you are looking forward to regular decision application deadlines. And, this is really the perfect time to be reevaluating your college list and everything. And we just want to be here as people that you can ask advice of. We're going to go into a little bit about who we are and what our company does, just so you know why you should be listening to us in the first place. But otherwise, start sending in your questions. I know there's a few of you already in the stream. We would love to have your questions. Start sending them in now as we kind of talk about our services, and then we can jump right into your questions when it's time. But again, I just want to introduce ourselves a little bit and talk about our backgrounds, and then we will get right to your questions. But thank you again for being here today. We appreciate you all so much. Okay. Perfect.
All right. I'm going to kick us off. My name is Darlene. I'm currently a third-year medical student. I have a ton of research experience. My favorite research is probably my dermatology immunology research, but I've been in biotech, biomedical, clinical, so all over the place. I've also been in an office for about 3 years, and I've helped start up a telehealth company. And so I have a lot of experience in that. And I love mentoring students and helping them get into colleges and medical school. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Darlene. And I, like Darlene, am a college counselor at Moon Prep. Previously, I worked as a writer for a national magazine, so I come from a writing and editorial background, very different from Darlene. And then I was also an admissions counselor at a Big Ten university. So together, we have some pretty interesting experience to offer you. But when I was an admissions counselor, I was our honors recruiter for business honors, kind of their pre-law program, their engineering honors programs. So I can kind of answer a lot of questions about honors applications. I know a lot of those deadlines are right about now. So if you have any questions about honors applications or essays, definitely send those in. But I've kind of had the unique perspective of being the one in the seat behind the screen at the university reading, hundreds of college applications and essays. So I like to really bring that perspective and that insight from kind of like what an admissions counselor thinks about or how the college views your essays and applications. I really like to bring that, to the public so you can kind of benefit from that background knowledge. But now I have an author page on niche.com after I came to work for Moon Prep. And then, of course, I spend my time now helping students as an independent college counselor at Moon Prep. So definitely, that's kind of a little bit of our backgrounds. So our specialties and what questions you can ask us. We also put our contact information right up there on the screen. So write that down. I'm going to put that in the chat too, kind of after we're done talking about ourselves. And then you can also reach out after this webinar as well. But a little bit about Moon Prep as a company. So Moon Prep is made up of a team of independent college counselors, just like myself and Darlene, who work with students virtually. And we guide students through not only the college admissions process and interview prep, but also going through high school. So we have many freshmen and sophomores that we're helping shape their resumes and also help guide them on which AP classes classes or IB classes to be taking in high school as well, to kind of shape their way to the college that they would like to apply to, their dream schools. But, the counselors at Moon Prep, we all serve as guides and mentors to our students. We really become close with our students. And, we help everyone. Younger students, we're helping narrow down their career interests. If they're interested in medicine, we're helping them kind of decide between different specialties to focus their resumes on as they approach college. We also help them find summer research programs, which Darlene knows all about because she's been involved in a bunch of them. We also kind of help them help students find internships, everything we possibly can to help beef up their resumes. And we also help students kind of find shadowing opportunities and experiences with doctors in specialties that they might like to explore. Essentially, especially with younger students, we're helping applicants and future medical school applicants build the strongest possible applicant profile, so that when their senior years around, they are good. Can you? Oh,
Yes.
okay, perfect. Woo! That was fun, everyone. Um, okay. Well, so when senior year rolls around, we want students to be the most competitive applicant for even the most selective university on their college list. And then, of course, we also really specialize in helping seniors or even rising seniors. We're helping our seniors navigate, their college applications, even if they are applying to 5 schools or in some cases 40 schools. We're helping them really stay on top of all their to-dos on their college applications, essays, letters of recommendation, everything like that. So nothing is missed. And then, of course, we're helping in depth with essays. We're helping brainstorm the perfect college essays, not only for that personal statement, but also all of those supplemental essays that the top colleges require. And we're helping brainstorm content based on the hundreds of effective essays that we've seen over the years. But essentially, we with each student on a one-on-one capacity when the student is available. We don't follow a typical Monday through Friday through Friday schedule. We're working nights, weekends, and in every time zone imaginable whenever it's convenient for our students. And we're focused on filling in gaps that might arise from a busy high school guidance counselor who might not have time to help with all of these many, many items for every student on their list. We're the ones kind of proofreading essays, on over Zoom at 10 p.m. on a Saturday night. That's kind of where we come in. And lastly, just our company is really unique because we accept only a limited number of students for each counselor. So we can completely focus on our students' individual needs and Can you hear me? Okay. Am I just like winking out and coming right back in, or?
Yeah.
Great. So much fun. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Well, we'll try to get to the questions as fast as possible, and then hopefully it'll calm down. As you saw from our bios, and we just meet regularly to share advice so that when you work with one of us, you truly work with all of us. And that's about it for things about our company. So I'd like to get to our questions now, and I'm just going to get to that screen. This is where we love to see your questions. Please send in questions, and we would love to get to them. I know that in the past, questions have come through better this way. We did not receive any questions ahead of time, so please send in questions now. And there was like a way to do this. I think. One second. Before I know I was able to look on my phone and get the questions, but maybe. One second. I do not see any questions. Does someone want to send something in just so I can see? Okay. Top chat. There we go. Okay. I was not able to see anything on my phone, but we do want questions. Darlene, do you have the YouTube pulled up? Are there any questions that have come in that I'm totally missing?
No, not that I see.
Well, does anybody out there have regular decision applications that they have ahead of them and want any advice on the schools they have chosen for regular decision or rolling decisions? And I guess, Darlene, is there anything you want to just talk about? Oh, perfect. I think that's Artie. Hi, Artie. Do you have a question? We would love to answer any questions you have over the college process, applications, or even your personal statement. If you have any idea, if you are still applying to a couple schools and you want advice over any of your essays, this is the time to do it. Oh, perfect. You're a parent. Perfect. Of 2 juniors. Oh man, that's awesome. Junior year is honestly the best time to join Moon Prep because we still have time to kind of make some adjustments if there's anything you kind of need to make sure you focus on before senior year. Junior year is just so crucial. I was talking to a junior just the other day, and she's applying to, like pre-med programs and the kind of top pre-med programs. And she said, oh yeah, I don't know what letters of recommendation I'm going to have because my science and math teachers, like, I don't do well in their classes and I don't think they like me very much. And I said, well, this would be the time to start really making some friends, like really doing well in their classes, because junior year is where you are going to make your network of letters of recommendation. So it's super important. So do you have any questions for us about your juniors? Perfect. Question number 1. My son I can click on this so this shows. There we go. My son just received PSAT scores of a 1450. Congratulations. And yep, perfect. Will that help with scholarships? So, yes, a PSAT is a fantastic kind of what's it called? Indicator for kind of what SAT scores that they should be getting. So this is a great score, as well as qualifying for national merit. National merit kind of qualifiers absolutely kind of have access to additional scholarships at all the colleges that they'll be applying to. So with a PSAT score qualifying for national merit, that should be definitely getting access to like national merit scholarships. Even if he doesn't qualify, kind of qualify for national merit, the PSAT scores won't directly kind of correlate to scholarships at colleges outside of like national merit. Have you run into anything as far as PSAT meaning like kind of like transitioning to scholarship money outside of national merit, Darlene?
I don't think so.
Yeah, typically PSAT is just kind of rolled into national merit scholarships.
Yeah.
So to apply for additional scholarships and everything, you'd have to take the SAT and get a similar score. With that similar score, he should definitely be getting scholarship, kind of merit scholarship money, but not necessarily tied to the SAT. Yes, Sophia, and yes, you can absolutely ask questions about Bsmd. Go for it. Go ahead and ask questions. We know a lot of things off the top of our head, but if we don't know something, then that is something that we can handle offline and like look up and send you an email. But we know a lot of things off the top of our head, so we can certainly try. I feel like one time on a webinar, we were asked something like how many seats does one program have? And I was like, actually, I actually do know it's either 5 or 10, but I don't know exactly. So definitely ask, and if we know it, we can for sure answer. But Sophia, if your dream school is a competitive school, should you apply early or regular? Darlene, do you want to start answering this, or do you make it? What do you feel like? I don't want to monopolize it if you want to talk.
Yeah, I can answer. I think the rule of thumb, at least what I tell my students, is if that if this is your dream school, you do want to apply early, and there are certain advantages for that, right? So, there may not be as big of a pool applying early. If you are okay, there's like early decision and early application. So if you're kind of okay, I think early application is the one where you have to commit, right? Or
Yeah.
no, or the early decision.
Early decision is committing
You have,
early, early
yeah.
action. Yeah.
So if you're okay with committing, then absolutely, right? Because it shows them you're already willing to make the commitment. For early action,
Yeah.
I always get those confused. But for early action, there it does show that you are eager, and that kind of gives them kind of like a heads up about you while they're reading your application. And your application is going to be screened even before anyone applies for regular decision.
Mhm.
So yeah, absolutely, there are a lot of advantages to doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And I would just add to that that definitely apply early decision, even if it's, binding early decision if it's your top school, but also be very mindful of if you are a qualified applicant. If their average incoming, SAT is a 1400 and you haven't been able to make it up, above like 1100 on the SAT, then you have to know that your chances are pretty low, but at the same time, that would be if you want to still apply binding early decision to make sure that you're adding a lot of other like regular decision schools to your list. So you have a lot of like plan B options, knowing that you're kind of throwing your hat into the ring on something that's a lower chance. So just also for early decision schools, just make sure that you are kind of a qualified applicant, and then that really boosts your chances. Early decision, there's so much data out there about how much it boosts your chances at a dream school by doing early decision that there's really no reason not to. I feel like in the past, there was just kind of like a lot of information out there about, oh, yeah, no, that's an Ivy school, wait till a regular decision. And I kind of don't know where that came from, but it's just kind of like a thing that's out there. And I don't recommend waiting on any of your dream schools for regular decision. If possible, do early action or early decision. If you have like one top dream school, do it. Definitely. It certainly doesn't hurt unless you're trying to decide between 5 binding early decision schools and, then don't apply to all 5 binding. That will hurt you. Okay, so we have also any insights on the BSMD program at California North State? Yeah, so this program is traditionally um, having a higher acceptance rate for their applicants than other BSMD programs. So if a BSMD is like that is your all or nothing, you want to get into a BSMD program, like BSMD or bust, for you. California North State is a great program to put on your list. It is one of the only, it's the only BSMD program, MD program in California, not DO. So if that is a concern, is that if you're like an in-state person wanting to stay in state and also do BSMD, it's kind of your only option. But so this is on multiple of our Moon Prep students list, BSMD lists, and so yeah, we have students applying to California North State. I know they have some substantial essays, 2 or 3 larger essays, but those essays are also ones that kind of overlap with a few other schools. So it's likely that students have already written the essays for that school. And so that kind of makes the application a little bit easier too. Anything you want to add, Darlene?
No, if I'm not mistaken, this is like a newer program, right?
It's fairly newer. I can't remember how
Yeah.
many years it's been out, but it is like a fairly newer program. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. in my opinion, I think if you can get into any Bsmd program, you should do it.
Assured programs are great, yeah.
Yeah, because I went through the traditional route, and I can tell you I don't think it's as fun as going through a direct route.
That's funny. Okay, and we have another question. Oh, perfect. You have an interview with the BSMD in New York. Congratulations. That's awesome. And your interview was in 3 days. 3 days. Okay. How do I prepare? Well, number one, we have an interview guide on our resources page on moonprep.com. So I'm gonna put the link. Actually, I should be fine. I can find the link and give me a second. I'll find the link and pop it in there. I don't have that just loaded into my regular links to pop in there. I just don't want to plop it in and not having. Give me 1 second and I will put it in there for you. Yes. Perfect. I got it. So we have an interview guide at this link that I just posted in the comments. Hide a message. Oh, perfect. Okay, it did show up. So first of all, that's a great place to start. It has a lot of great information about how how to prepare, as well as how to be dressed, and then a lot of those sample questions. Number two, I would definitely jump on YouTube and everything like that and get some more advice from people that have gone through interview prep or interviews themselves. Honestly, sometimes jumping on forums like Reddit, you can get an idea of the questions that particular school has asked in the past. And lastly, for interview prep, you could sign up for a couple hours of working with us and even work with Darlene if you want to. And Darlene is our interview prep queen because she knows everything. And so it's very easy. You just reach out to myself on it's just Michaela@moonprep.com. I'll put that in the chat too. And we can get you signed up for just a couple hours even of interview prep. And even just doing a mock interview can really, really, really help. But we have flexible packages, everything from pay as you go by the hour to just being able to sign up for 5-10 hours at a time. And then if you end up, that saves you a little bit hourly. And then if you only use 5 of 10 hours, then you can get a refund of the remaining hours you didn't use. But so either way, we would love to work with you and help you prepare. If it's 3 days away, we can be working on this tomorrow. So I highly recommend the interview guide, and then truthfully, some mock interviews do help, and also watching some videos. I guess, Darlene, you're our interview queen. I don't even know why I'm answering this. Go, you can probably take this away. Any advice?
Yeah, practice, practice, practice. That's what I tell everyone. Usually my rule of thumb is at least 3 mock interview sessions. A lot of our students have been getting interviews and they're like, it's tomorrow. I'm like, okay, great. We'll work on it. So yeah, as much practice as you can. And especially at a high school level, interviewing can be kind of tough to know what to say or, different ways to answer it. And personally, I do believe that there is an art to answering these type of questions. And so I believe the guide has a lot of different practice questions. I don't actually remember if it has ways to answer it, but that's something that we go over. If my students meet with me, I give a really thorough explanation. I crush a lot of dreams in the beginning because I tell people hey, that was just okay, but how do we make it stronger, right? And I really help you guys understand, what your interviewer is looking for and different types of questions. Mm-hmm. And usually the one thing that I see a lot is a lot of students will get, a really random random question, and they will just like forget who they are, like forget where they are. And that's kind of what the mock interview practice is for. And usually I make it very difficult so that, these students, when they actually get to the real interview, it feels a lot easier because they've seen a lot of the weird type of questions that I'll ask, right? And, if you are preparing on your own, one thing I would recommend is to figure out different healthcare issues and be ready to explain them. So is that kind of mean? Yeah, like, but a lot of med schools are not nice with their interview questions. They will keep like poking and prodding at you until you can give them a good answer or until you get trapped. So, practice as much about healthcare and current issues as you can, and that usually helps a lot.
Yeah. Basically spend the next 3 days like just immersed in learning everything you can about the school, that program, and then just current topics in healthcare too. So you can talk confidently and just like show that you've been in it, you've been thinking about this. I was going to say too that a lot of the times when students are first practicing with me, they will kind of forget like what they're there to do. And so they'll get a question like what are your strengths and weaknesses? And they'll just answer straight. Like they'll just be like, I'm an organized person, like that's one of my strengths. I'm just organized. And they're not really thinking about it from like, okay, what is the college trying to know about me by asking this question? Like they just answer it just like how they would normally answer it if like a friend asked them or a teacher asked them. And they're not thinking about it from the college's perspective of like, what are they trying to get to know out of me by asking this question? And so like really be kind of like digging into like, why would they be asking these sample questions or these example questions? Why are they there? And how can I show as much about myself through these answers as possible? Like 3 adjectives that describe you. Don't say I'm ambitious. I'm, like everybody says that. Everybody says I'm ambitious. I'm creative. I'm, like everybody says that. Think of words that truly kind of define something interesting about you that they get to actually learn something about you. Don't just stick to like the boring normal question or answers. That's what I have to add to that. That was a long answer. Sorry, everyone. All right, we have an early decision question. When do you usually have to commit to an early decision? Can you take it back if you change your mind? Is there money binding involved? If yes, how much usually? So enrollment deposits really kind of vary by school. The college I used to work for was $250 enrollment deposit, and that like secured your seat basically. If you're doing a binding early decision, you have committed to that school. There are ways that you can back out, but it is definitely frowned upon. Like you're basically, by applying early decision, you literally kind of you literally are signing that you want to, like that you will go there no matter what, basically. So by literally signing your name at the bottom of your application, you're saying I'm committing to going there. Early decision, it's binding. So, the ways that people have gotten out of early decision is if you cannot afford that, but they're also doing their internal evaluation of your finances when you submit the CSS profile or the FAFSA. They're giving you a financial aid package back saying like, oh, look, school's only $10,000 a year. So they're doing their own evaluation of whether or not you can afford it. So you kind of have to have like a good reason for why you can't afford this. Like, oh, my dad just lost his job, something like that. Something that would that shows up more recently than the FAFSA year of information that you're submitting, something big like that happened. That's kind of the best answer. You can't just get out of it by saying like, I got into another school. That's not exactly the point of early decision, if that makes sense. but I would say that you can't take it back if you changed your mind unless you have a very good reason, is a clear answer. People do all the time, but I don't know. I haven't necessarily like heard what happens. Like, so I don't know exactly like how bad that would be. I don't know. But most of our students that get into an early decision are just overjoyed with the college they got into, and it's not a big deal. So, but anything you want to add, Darlene?
No, I mean, I know from when I went to school and I was applying to colleges, it was like a big deal for early decision
Yeah.
because it's a legally binding contract. So, we were always told like schools can sue you for that.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's a big deal.
yeah, and if you're not comfortable with that decision, then try to do early action if that's an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. If you get into ED2, then if money is a problem, do you have to prove anything? And if so, what are the benchmarks to decline? I think this came in like kind of before I was like before I kind of answered that. So I think it kind of like covered this, just that you're going to be turning in the FAFSA or the
Mhm.
CSS profile, whatever they're going to be asking you what your finances are. So they are going to see whether or not you can afford it, and that's so that we kind of like what you need to prove. I'm trying to think like what other people have done. We really haven't had that many. We haven't had any student like back out of an early decision.
Mhm.
Usually, like they're doing ED or ED2 to their dream school, and then if they get in, then they're going. But okay, the Seton Hall program. That is a great question. Seton Hall, is
I
that?
believe this is LECOM.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, because LECOM has 3 branches, unless I'm thinking of something else.
Well, they also have a joint bachelor's MD program. It's just a very small program, and I believe it's fairly new. Like, I feel like they started their first, wasn't there like their first cohort of students like either last year or the year before? I do believe that they take in-state
Oh,
students
wait.
only.
Oh, wait, never mind. I'm thinking of a different program.
I immediately thought of that one too, and now I can't remember what the name of that one was. Um, for what I know of this one, I believe they take in-state only, or if not, I've only had in-state students apply. I believe we approached them for an interview to learn more, and then we haven't been able to nail that down. That was like in the summer. So we don't know a ton out there more than what's on their website. But they do have a 4 year, 4+4 program. And I mean, it's a fantastic program if you matriculate to an interview, if you're invited to an interview. It's a BSMD program, so I mean, obviously go for it. It's great. I don't think we've had anybody get in before, but I also don't know. None of my students have ever applied. I do think it's fairly newer. Um, okay. And Patrick, if you don't mind clarifying VASF Tech, was this Virginia Tech? I'm if you a question. I don't know. Okay. This is a great question. How many will be accepted by BSMD programs every year? So, the majority of BSMD programs, especially in like the New Jersey, New York schools, will have anywhere from 5 to 10 seats. And some of the bigger programs have somewhere between like 40 and 80 seats. But those are kind of few and far between. Like there's like, maybe 10 programs that have more than 10 seats. And so it's a very small percentage of students even get to interview. They will be most of these programs will be evaluating you when you apply to see if you have, interesting out of the box, content on your resume, and whether your essays show that you can have empathy as a physician, if you kind of uphold just kind of the honor of being a physician, and if you're well spoken in your essays. And so, a very few, I can tell you from the number of like applications I read, very few students truly do come across that way. And so your job is to just kind of show them that you are a well-rounded, capable individual through your resume and your essays. And then that kind of like does as much as you possibly can. It controls all the variables that you can. The things you can't control are like how many students, from your high school or from your region or your state applied to that program, because so many of them are kind of situated in different, like, if you're from California, you're pretty much applying to all out of state Bsmd programs. So that's what you can't control, is like how many applicants from California came your way. So, how many students are accepted? Truthfully, very, very little. Like Case Western had less than 1%, same as Brown University's Bsmd program had a less than 1% acceptance rate. Some programs have, a 2 or 3% acceptance rates. I'm thinking maybe RPI was one of those. Maybe UPIT was about 2%. So just really, really low percentage rates of accepted applicants. So just know that the competition is very, very high, very, very tough competition, but that's where stacking all the odds in your favor, really comes in handy through your resume and your essays. And that's what we are here to do, is just to help stack the odds in your favor, because we know how competitive those programs are. And that's why we kind of live and breathe Bsmd programs, just to help you as much as we possibly can. But definitely most programs are about like 10 seats. So, and out of, sometimes those 10 seats are in a population of like 3,000 all the way up to, 10,000 students. So it's a lot. Very, very, very competitive. Are there any programs that you're specifically applying to? Oh, okay. You did reply already. Wow. As I was saying that, you were typing. Did you want to add anything to that other answer I gave, Darlene?
Yeah, with any medical school program, and especially like Bsmd, like I know even at my school, which is not a Bsmd program, by the way, I think they interviewed like 5% of students. So it's really small, right? So when you're talking about like a Bsmd program, and with COVID changing things and making more students interested in Bsmd, I am willing to like bet that there's an increase of applications. So the percentage that Michaela gave, it may be even smaller. And like she said, this is why, we want to make sure that the application is perfect, right? And the component that I feel like people sometimes forget about is the personal statement, the secondaries, and then of course the interview, right? And we kind of already talked about the interview, but a lot of the times people get so excited they forget that this is another crucial step, as part of the application, and you have to make sure that all your answers meet exactly what they're looking for in order to give you the best chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, we have another question. I'm going to come back to yours real quick because there's one I can answer. Is there a list? I'll come back to yours really quickly. Is there a list of all 7-year Bsmd programs that accept out of state? Here in Maryland, we only have one. So real quickly, I just want to put this in the chat. There is a list out there. Number one, if you work with us as a Moon Prep student, you have access to a giant database that we put together that has all sorts of data on these programs. So you can see, like, you can narrow it down very quickly of the 7-year programs, 8-year programs, all the things. And we have notes on all of those as far as like, are they like, how many out of states did they do last year? 3 out of state seats, 10 seats, whatever. So if you work with us, you have a copy of that giant spreadsheet that we have. We also go into depth in our book. So if that is something that you want to kind of check us out even further, you can check out our book. It's available on Amazon, and that also has a list of programs. The spreadsheet is obviously something that we can keep up to date live. We keep that up to date. Like, if a program cancels next week, we update our spreadsheet within hours, so obviously the book is harder to do that with, but that'd be a great place to start. Just wanted to send that out there just so you have it. And I will go back to your question. Among bio research projects, volunteer in hospital, or shadow a physician in the summer, which one puts more weight on an application? Okay.
Can I answer this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This isn't like, evidence-based or anything. It's just from what I've seen throughout the years. So when they get your primary application, in my opinion, and I've helped people get into like really great medical schools, right? So I hear a lot about their questions that they get. But, I think when they first get the application, the research project has a lot of weight. And that's because it shows them that you're actually interested in science and that you're able to think creatively. And, research projects aren't really something that students do in a classroom, right? This is something that you have to do kind of like as an extracurricular. However, I think volunteering and shadowing actually has more weight, but in person. So I think when they're reading the application, they want to see that you have done research. But if you actually get an interview, I don't think you will get asked about your research anymore. It's kind of like a stepping stone, right? So once you've passed the first stepping stone, you don't really see it again. So, like I had like 5 or 6 research projects before I ever started interviewing for medical school. And I was never asked once about any of these research projects. And I've asked my friends too that I've helped prepped, and like one of them is at USC, and she also interviewed at like Georgetown. My other friend was he interviewed at Albany, New York, and Carver in Iowa, and they have never been asked about their research either. So when I prep students, I usually tell them, like, if you feel attached to your research project, then you can talk about it. But I would prepare for other issues in healthcare. And that's kind of where the volunteering and shadowing comes in, because they really want to see that you've, been in the field, right? So research is great, but, doing research doesn't really give you any insight into medicine, right? Whereas being in a hospital, volunteering, shadowing, those things are directly applicable to what your career is going to look like.
Yeah. And I would also, so I think, depending on what you're actually able to do in the hospital volunteering, if you're like just working at the front desk and you don't really get a lot of patient interaction, I would say kind of go for the shadowing. If you can, honestly, if you can do the shadowing and the volunteering simultaneously in the summer, that'd be amazing. A lot of my students do their volunteering through the school year and then spend like significant hours either doing a research project or shadowing in the summer when they can devote a lot more time to it. What I would recommend, no matter what you do, especially like whether it's volunteering or shadowing or research, I recommend keeping, I tell all my students this, they need to keep a diary, if you will. I tell them to journal. They need to come home every day after a shadowing experience, and they need to think in their brains, if I was going to write an essay about what happened today, what would it be? Like a full essay, not like they have to actually write the whole essay, but like just a little outline of like, oh, a moment where someone slipped in the, in the waiting room. Oh my goodness. Like, it could have made their hip issue even worse. Like start off with a moment in time story and then connect it into like what they're learning every single day. And I had one senior that listened to me about this. He had a last minute shadowing experience, like right at the end of summer, a rising senior. And he did this. He had 14 days of shadowing with a cardiovascular surgeon. And he did this, came home every single day, and he had a shared document with me. And he did this. We used 3 of his journal essays in his journal entries in his eventual essays, and he has not had a rejection yet, just putting that out there. And I'm sure some are coming his way, but he's received yeses to 7, 8 schools so far on his list. And so it works. It works. And he was able to like tie things back into like his dad's, like medical history and like things he heard of from his grandfather. Like, oh, when I learned about this from this patient, this reminded me of something that my grandfather told me about, like what our family is like predisposed to, blah, 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 blah. I learned about this, something that I might see in my own medical history later. Just all these different things he's able to connect all over from what he was learning, and we used it in his essays. So highly recommend journaling. That was a random tag. Sorry, but please do it. It really helps. And then back to about the book. Does your list in the book also include basically breaking things down, tuition, year-wise tuition breakdown? I don't know if it has tuition information in there because it would be so different for like out of state versus in state, as well as like what scholarships are associated with the program. So that's a really good question. I did not work on, I myself did not work on adding tuition in there, and I don't know if it's in there. That's a really good question. I guess I have the book like right here, except it's stuck. Okay, hold on. Hold on, everyone. Let me find out. No, the list looks like this. Just kind of a little breakdown of different programs. But it has like supplemental essays, the deadline, interview dates, does it require the MCAT, GPA, SAT, what medical school it's paired with, and the program length. So that is what our list entails in the book, just so you know. There we go. I forgot it's right here. I used it upstairs for something, and so I'm glad I remembered I brought it back down. First of all, in this question, I love the car in your profile picture. I love that. I have letter of recommendations from 2 doctors. It's valuable to send it through email to Bsmd programs since they only ask for teacher recommendations. Darlene, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to? Totally, just let me know.
I don't have a great answer, but from what I remember, usually, or at least for the med school side, right, which I know Bsmd is pretty much the med school side, they don't really like you to send extra things that they don't ask for. you may want to ask them first before you send it to them. But that's my answer.
On the common application, I feel like I saw on most programs they'll like specify like do not send us additional recommendations. I saw that on multiple schools.
Yeah.
But obviously some schools didn't specify that. So I would kind of like look on their website and see how they kind of handle additional recommendations, because there is a spot on applications like through the Common App where you can add additional recommenders, and that would be the place to do that. But not if the college like kind of frowns upon that. So I kind of like check into each school that you're applying to, just like Darlene said. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Just to understand correctly, Darlene, in-person volunteering and shadowing has more value than research.
Not necessarily. I kind of lump those two under patient care experience, right? So especially at a high school level, it is harder to find shadowing experiences. Not impossible, but I will say it's a lot harder than trying to find in-person volunteering, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if all you can find is in-person volunteering, I wouldn't necessarily discount that, right? So my big thing is you have to be passionate about what you're doing. So if a student gets really great experiences through in-person volunteering and they get to meet a lot of patients or work with a lot of physicians, that, at that point, do you really need shadowing? Not really. When I was a pre-med, I did a lot of shadowing. Do I think it was super helpful? Not really, because most of the time I didn't really understand what they were saying anyway. So, volunteering is nice because it's more like high level stuff, right? You only have to know basic things in order to understand or communicate with a patient. And obviously the more you volunteer or the more you shadow, the more you get used to the verbiage that they use in the clinic or the hospital. And that it kind of makes things easier to digest. But the point I'm trying to get at is, why are we even doing these things, right? And we already talked about in the personal statement, you do have to show some sort of interest. And, what better way to show interest than to already have those experiences? But, you can't just write in your essays like, yeah, I shadowed at this hospital and, I saw some patients and that was great, right? Did you really make good use of your volunteering? Not really. So like Michaela said, there has to be a reason behind why you're doing certain things. What did it open your eyes to? What is the purpose of you doing it and what did you learn and how do you apply that? And that's, you can also work at McDonald's, and I love to use this example, and people always laugh, right? Because they're like, that has nothing to do with medicine. But, you can only have worked at McDonald's and still be able to write a great essay and relate it back to patient care. So
schedule a free call with one of us just through hello@moonprep or Michaela@moonprep. That's higher in the comments. Feel free to visit our website. We have free resources and we do these webinars all the time. And also, you can stay in the know on admissions news by joining um, can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. So, if you want more resources, just kind of visit our website, www.moonprep.com. We have lots of resources, and we do these webinars twice a month. Our to schedule that free call. Thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you on our next webinar, which will be all about interviews, and that is January 20th. Have a happy holiday season, everyone. Thank you so much.